How about Oil Can Boyd?
Oil Can.
Do you remember?
What a great name.
Do you remember who that was?
Nope.
That was Dennis Oil Can Boyd. I know our next guest knows who that certain baseball player is. He was a former Sox. That's Jim McBride from the Boston Globe. By the way, Boston Globe, Ryan, if you want to know the award-winning papers that are in Boston, there's really only one. It's the Globe. They didn't make a movie about the other one. That's what I'd like to say. We talked to Jim during the Super Bowl week, and we were pleased to have him on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline again. Sir, how are you this afternoon? Big rematch of the Super Bowl, right?
Well, maybe not quite a rematch, but certainly the two teams that played in Super Bowl 52. And I got to tell you, I remember Oil Can Boyd very well. He was about 97 pounds soaking wet before he could throw that fastball.
A little-known history of me, sir, is that I went to college with one Howard Bryant. He was Howie at the time. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, in my Temple News years, he came in one time with a Red Sox cap. I said, what the hell are you doing with that? And he said, this is actually Oil Can Boyd's hat. And then I was like, well, okay, then I guess I'll excuse it. So these are the little connections that you get when you jump on with the Philly radio station down here to talk Eagles and Patriots. So this has been our big thing, Jim, this billboard. You got to get to the bottom of this. Does this have the Patriots fans in a tizzy? Are they upset about this billboard? Where is it? How close is it to the stadium?
So I just drove by it about 5 minutes ago. It's less than a mile from the stadium. It hovers above a liquor store right on Route 1 in Foxborough. I haven't heard too much. I saw it on the news last night. It was the first time I saw it. So I'm kind of interested to get a take of what the fans feel as I walk into the stadium today, if anyone's noticed it, if anyone's upset, or if somebody's just having a good time with us.
So of all these dramas that we're trying to create, we are sports talk radio after all, the Foles Brady no handshake after the game last year, or Lane Johnson's comments calling the Patriots a fear-based organization, or this billboard. Which of these really unbelievably journalistically intense stories are you following the most?
Well, I really like Nick Foles' way he handled that this week when he was asked about it. He was like, look, it wasn't a big deal. I've talked to Tom in the past. I'm sure I'll talk to him in the future. As far as the Lane Johnson comments goes, that's got a lot more play up here among the fans and some in the media. But when you talk to the players about it, they just, they don't want to talk about it. I mean, Coach Belichick would never address that. All he's concerned with when you ask him about that is what's going on that day, that practice, the opponent coming up, and, what other people are saying in other training camps or in other organizations. He's never really paid that much attention. And it kind of falls right in line with his players kind of follow that, that edict or thought process where they don't really address things like that. I know I talked to Randy Moss a couple weeks before he was inducted to the Hall of Fame, and he heard all the stories about Lane Johnson and Cassius Marsh, who said it wasn't a fun place to play, and he just he couldn't understand that because he loved being as a Patriot and he thrived here. Got to the Super Bowl. They didn't win it, but got to the Super Bowl. So I think it's one of those things where not inside here. They're not going to pay much attention to what you have to say, and that's certainly been it with Lane Johnson's comments.
Yeah, they didn't want to talk about it, or they're afraid to talk about it, right? That's a key question.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, they certainly, it's not unique to Lane Johnson's comments. When other people have talked about, bulletin board material about the Patriots, these guys generally don't address that at all. So, not shocking that they wouldn't address this by any means.
Was a Super Bowl loss like a really devastating loss for the Patriot fans, or is there just so much winning going on in recent years that it wasn't as big of a deal? Because just from us being here, obviously the Super Bowl win meant everything, and we're still celebrating it up until kickoff tonight, up until week 1, and I'm sure even farther than that. So I'm just curious, how does the Philly win defeating the Patriots, what's the taste in the Patriots fans' mouth still at this point? Is everyone over it?
Well, I think it definitely stung, as any Super Bowl loss would, but I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head when you talked about the success they've had with the 5 championships. I think those first 2 Super Bowls that they lost, when they lost to the Bears back in '85, I don't know how many people remember that as well as I do. I was just a kid at the time, but and the loss, to the Packers. And then, the kind of Bill Parcells left after those 2 really stung. Then they had their taste of success, and, they lost the 2 to the Giants, the one that ruined the perfect season. That was probably the worst of all of them. So I think that, while it stung, it wasn't it wasn't this huge bitter pill that they had to swallow that they were going to carry around until the next time they get back to the Super Bowl, because, they've been to the top of the mountain so many times that, like I said, it hurts, but it's not like one of those devastating losses that you don't think you'll recover from. I mean, I think this franchise is probably still favored to get back to the Super Bowl. They didn't lose much from that roster that got to the Super Bowl last year. So I don't think anyone was like, oh, no, now our chance is gone. I mean, I think as long as 12 is your quarterback, you feel like you have a pretty good chance to have success.
So we have a poll question out to our listeners asking, which are you more interested in watching tonight, Phillies, Mets, or Eagles, Patriots? So the Phillies are in the thick of things here for a playoff push. They just defeated your Boston Red Sox last night. And the Eagles are defending Super Bowl champions, and the city split. The Phillies aren't gaining as much traction or interest as you would hope. So with the Red Sox rolling right now and the Patriots getting underway, what's the vibe like in Boston? Do the Patriots trump everything, or right now the Red Sox are clearly having a special year? Are they the focus?
Yeah, the Red Sox are having such a great season, but last time the Patriots and Red Sox faced off, it always gets higher rating for the Patriots, and whether that's just because it's only once a week, that might be it, and people can watch the Red Sox whenever they want, but I think that the main story this summer is still going to be the Red Sox until opening till September 9th when the Patriots open up. Then you'll see a dramatic shift in people's watching habits and kind of paying attention. They just this hasn't been the most exciting training camp. First time in about 7 years they haven't had joint practices with another team. There hasn't been that buzz, and I think a lot of it has to do with how well the Red Sox are doing. People's sports attention and entertainment attention is all on the Red Sox right now.
You mentioned number 12 under center. That's Tom Brady. How much longer are we going to see him under center? Could this be his last year, or is he really going to play another 5 years like you mentioned last year? And then how much of him do we expect to see tonight?
I think he'll play deep tonight, probably at least well into the first half, maybe even the whole first half. He normally plays a little bit in that first preseason game, but he didn't play last week. He had a sore back. So I wouldn't be surprised if he plays, more than you would expect tonight, because he's still trying to build a rapport with some of these newer receivers. So, it's going to be, it's kind of a strange situation where your starting quarterback will see more than normal, but I think that's what happens tonight. And I'm sorry, what was the first part of that question again?
I said, how much longer are we going to see Brady career-wise? How many more seasons do you think?
Right. Now, he said again when we talked to him this week that he's always maintained that 45. My gut feeling that he's in it for this year and next year completely. Now, if they come and win the Super Bowl this year, I think then, that may change his mind. He may say, hey, this is when I want to go out on top. But, he's publicly, at least, he's still maintaining that he wants to play into his mid-40s. So, obviously we interpret that to 45. But we know he's under contract until next year. So, at the very least, contract-wise, it's that. And, I think that, come February, if they win that Super Bowl, I wouldn't be stunned to see him ride off into the sunset with his sixth title.
Jim McBride with us from the Boston Globe for our outside view on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. He's the Patriots beat reporter for the Boston Globe. Find him on Twitter at Globe Jim McBride, all smashed together. You mentioned those receivers, by the way, and I'll ask you this too, Jim. If Gronk, those reports were true and he had retired, you say that there's new receivers that Brady wants to get comfortable with. If he didn't have 87, he'd really be uncomfortable.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's been a big storyline this summer is the kind of the revamped receiving core, and the fact that Julian Edelman is back, but he's going to miss that first 4 games because of the suspension. He's got some new receivers, Cordarrelle Patterson, Eric Decker, but people tend to forget when they talk about the receivers that he's got Gronk, who's good for 1,000 yards when he's healthy, and he's got James White, who's really developed into one of the top 5 pass-catching running backs in the league. So the weapons are still there, some of his main guys. And this offense will still be, run within that 12 yards from the line of scrimmage type of thing. They don't really take too many shots down the field. They are missing Brandon Cooks. They traded him away. But I think Philip Dorsett is a guy that can come in and fill in maybe not that 1,000-yard home run hitting type of guy, but he is a very speedy guy, and he's gotten a lot of work this training camp. Got dinged up on Tuesday, but my sources tell me it was just a minor thing and that he should be good to go.
Yeah, so names like Philip Dorsett, Eric Decker, Chris Hogan, different names on the Patriots depth chart. Here's one that'll make Eagles fans smile, Jim. Paul Turner, buried all the way down there. That was at one Eagles training camp. Was it the Chip Kelly days? There was one Eagles training camp where Paul Turner was the story, and there's Bill Belichick picking up somebody's, okay, you're not interested in that? We'll grab that piece.
Yeah, he hasn't had a ton of work since he got here, but he's in the time that he's worked, probably with the third teamers, he's done fine. Not too many drops. Whether there's a spot for him to kind of get up to speed in this complicated offense in such a short amount of time, we'll see. But I know he's a real smart guy, and talking to him, he's a valedictorian of his high school. So if there's a guy out there that can pick it up, I would assume it's him.
Well, before we let you go, we definitely have to ask you about the defensive side of the football. Are they better, worse, the same on defense? And what are some of the storylines you're looking for on that side of the football?
I think it's going to be a better defense, and I think they got better along the front line and the second level with the linebackers. The defensive line got deeper. They brought in Danny Shelton. Derek Rivers, who was their top pick last year, got injured in training camp. He's looked really great this summer. He's a defensive end, kind of the Jason Taylor mode, tall, thin guy, but really quick. Had a quarterback pressure last week. I think the fact that Dante Hightower is back and healthy, that automatically makes your second level of defense better. They really missed him when he went out last year. And I think they've brought some younger draft picks in. Jawan Bentley is another guy who's been, has a really solid training camp so far, and Christian Sam is another guy. So the secondary has always been a strength for the last few years. So I think that this is going to be a better defense, despite the fact that, the guy that's been calling the shots there, Matt Patricia, is now in Detroit.
You've been on the beat for a while. Do you feel like you really know Bill Belichick? Have you gotten to know that guy?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. It's always it's always fun to be around Coach and listen to his insights on football. It's like I tell people all the time, like listening to him in some of his press conferences, especially deep during the season and his Friday morning press conferences. It's almost like you're going to football 101. He's got such a history of the game and appreciation for the game that you kind of sit there and forget that you're reporting for a while, and you kind of feel like you're a student. So it's always been an enjoyable experience from my perspective.
And you never know what question will set him off. You were probably there for the surface question when he was asked about those tablets the one time, and like 10 minutes later, he was still going.
Yeah, he didn't really like that technology at the time. And you could see it, when he had it on the sideline, he kind of slammed it down once or twice. So hopefully they've gotten those wrinkles ironed out for him.
Jim McBride with us from the Boston Globe. Jim, there is only one paper. That's it, Boston Globe. That's the only one you want to read. I'm right in that assessment, right?
That's the thing I'm going with. Absolutely, positively. It's the Boston Globe and nowhere else.
Find him on Twitter at Globe Jim McBride. We had you on during the Super Bowl. We had you on to preview tonight's game for our outside view. We appreciate a few minutes of your time, sir.
You bet. Maybe we'll have another rematch in February. I can talk to you guys again.
Oh, that'd be great, Jim. That'd be great. Take care.
All right. Thanks, guys.